Motion 3 was dropped, and now we're on to motion 4, the 2022 civic election ballot question to measure Vancouver electoral support for the 2030 Winter Olympic bid. And I'm just going to clear the queue here, Councillor Hardwick, and then you have up to 2 minutes to make your case. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. In 2003, the City of Vancouver held a plebiscite to determine support for the 2010 Olympics. It was a standalone vote that cost $575,000. In today's dollars, it would cost over $1 million. Adding it to the ballot in October is the most cost-effective solution. Incidentally, the 2003 standalone plebiscite attracted 135,000 voters who voted at just under 65% in favor of the Olympic bid. And adding this vote to the ballot in October could increase voter participation beyond the current low rate of 40%. Another consideration is the fact that the International Olympic Committee looks favorably on bids that have demonstrated community support. So why would we not have an open and democratic process given all these considerations? Notwithstanding, it would be good to know what the impact of the 2010 Olympics were. How do we do financially? But we don't know yet because the books are embargoed at the archives until 2025. But that's another story. Fast forward, the City Council voted in camera to enter into an MOU with local First Nations, Whistler, and the Lillooet Nations to partner on a bid for the 2030 Olympics. Like any MOU, all parties are responsible to their own membership, and in our case, our citizens. So it has been alleged by the mayor that this motion violates the MOU. It does not. Paragraph 5 of the MOU reads as follows. This MOU imposes no legally binding obligation on any of the parties. Staff have acknowledged this after I asked why there had been no such indication in the staff input on member motions. So, does this council support our citizens' right to vote or not? Someone really needs to second this motion and to get it on the table. We have speakers signed up. Let them speak.
Thank you. Councillor Kirby-Young, you have questions for up to a minute.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I have one, and I know that I've heard you say that legally the MOU between MST and the city to explore the benefits or feasibility of holding games, it doesn't require asking them with respect to a plebiscite. But in the spirit of partnership, I wonder why wouldn't you have asked them first for their input before bringing the motion?
Will they ask us for our input into them?
Just a point of privilege, Councillor.
Not.
Mike's not on. Go ahead.
Sorry. Like any MOU, and in business, I've been party to MOUs. Each one of those parties has an internal responsibility to their shareholders, members, and constituents. So I wouldn't expect the First Nations to be coming and asking us whether it was okay if they had a referenda, for example. So it's conflating two different things. It's outside the scope. Furthermore, there is no structural relationship in place where when I put this motion forward to staff, they didn't come and say, oh, you should go and talk to First Nations about this. There was no structural relationship there in which that could be vetted. So it's a bit of a red herring in my view to suggest, A, that we should be asking for...
Thank you. We're going to go on to Councillor Dejanova for a minute.
Thanks so much. Councillor Hardwick, I'm just wondering, Councillor Kirby-Young asked one of my questions. I'm going to ask you, do you know how much the nations have currently invested? Before it was the city, but how much in dollars they've invested in moving this forward, the work that they've been doing? And if that were to stop all of the sudden, who would be picking up the tab for that? Would you expect them to absorb it?
I have no idea, nor would I expect to have any control over what the other parties of the MOU are undertaking. I would only expect that the City of Vancouver, and again, the people that we represent, would be, we would be aware of the costs that we would be incurring, and we would be responsible to our electorate to determine our path forward.
Very quickly, how much would this cost? Do you know? Any idea? Do you know how much it costs us to send a property tax mailer?
Well, It certainly costs a significant amount every year for the city to be sending out, in hundreds of thousands of dollars. Again, I pointed out that the plebiscite in 2003 cost over $500,000.
Thank you. Councillor Bly, up to a minute.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wonder, Councilor Hardwick, if you can confirm, are you aware that any documentation, accounting, filings, things like that related to the Vancouver Olympic Committee are accessible to the public currently as of today?
As of today?
Yes, you're referencing earlier in your comments that documentation is not available. In fact, I believe that documentation is available.
The 2010 Olympics documentation is in the archives and it's embargoed until 2025.
But that's related to the BC government, not necessarily directly related to the Vancouver
former
Olympic.
city manager actually was the person that had that happen. Put them in
I
the
think we
archives.
need to fact check that related to Vancouver Olympic Committee. All of that information is available currently to the public.
Well, then I would challenge that and we'll make that available when we bring this into debate.
Thank you. Councillor Carr, up to a minute.
Yes, thanks, Mayor. Councillor Hardwick, I want to pursue again the issue of whether or not you have formally asked especially the host nations, the Lillooet, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam nations, who are in the lead on this bid, if they support such a referendum.
Can you suggest, Councillor Carr, how I would do that? What structural relationship would there be? Who would I talk to? What would the lines of communication be, if indeed that was appropriate? But again, I put this motion in for assessment by staff. At no time did anyone come back and suggest that from staff, for starters. Point number one. Point number two, there is no structure in place whereby we would go to First Nations leadership if I knew who specifically could be making those judgments. But my point in particular is that it's up to us as a member of the MOU to be responsible to our electorate. That's what this is about.
Thank you. That's it for questions from council. Calling for a seconder. Once, twice, three times. No seconder, so thank you very much, Council. We're going to move to item 5.